Okay, recording in progress. And Poets House, do you still have a presentation or slides to share? Is that right?
Oh, yes, we have a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, let me just do the quick intro first, and
Sure.
we'll have you go. Welcome everyone to the February meeting of the Community Board 1 Waterfront Parks and Cultural Committee. I am Paul Goldstein, chair of the committee. Other people I'll just recognize right now are Andrew Zelter, he's the co-chair, and Diana Sweetai, who's our Director of Planning and Land Use. You've heard from? Okay. The first item, as Diana was indicating, was going to be the Coast Guard building operations. They're not on the call as of now, so we're going to move over to item 2 to start with them, and that is Poets House. So with us, I know are Cornelius Iddy, is that how you pronounce it?
That's correct. Thank you.
Who's the interim director, Jane Preston, managing director, and I might have seen another person there, but I'm going to throw it over to you and let you do some introductions and tell us a little bit about what's going on at Poets House.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting us. We're very pleased to be invited. Of course, you know, this is going to be, since everyone knows I'm very, very web savvy. You know, we'll try to do this as best we can. This is why I have my companions here to help me. I'm the interim director of Poets House, and let's see, can we find the? You want me to share? Yeah, can you find the share? Okay. This is working?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay,
There we
okay,
go.
wonderful, great. So I'm the interim director of Poets House, and with me is Jane Preston. And Nick just left, fled. I'm going to assume. Hold on. I'm going to assume that you know a lot about Poets House, since it's been in the neighborhood for how long, Jane? Over a dozen years?
Just about a dozen years now.
Yes, it's over a dozen years.
2009 we opened.
But for just to first people or to fill in people who don't know what we're doing here, we're a nation's poetry library, setting a standard for programming and dialogue that honors the many poetry traditions of the world. A place of welcome, social imagination. Poets House invites everyone to read, write, and participate in poetry's transformational power. It's an independent poetry library overlooking the Hudson, and a beautiful creative space for poets and the public. I feel as a poet, I feel very honored to be invited to serve Poets House at this particular moment in its history. We've got 70,000 volumes of poems, of poetry books, and it makes it one of the most comprehensive poetry libraries in the country. As you can see, you know, it is a very beautiful designed space, inviting for readers and writers and people who just want to hang out. And we've had about 80,000 before the pandemic. We had about 80,000 visitors to the space every year. What you're seeing here is Bill Murray reading to construction workers during our build out. Like I said, what you're going to see, you're going to see the very many varieties of audience that Poets House serves or has been serving. From construction workers to movie stars, so to speak. Inclusive programming that encourages dialogue. Exhibitions that contextualize and enrich rare materials and significant poetry movements. Workshops teaching the craft of poetry for poets of all ages, as you can see. This is our tiny poets room, in tiny poets time in our children's room. Class trips from high schools, local and the tri-state area. Writing workshops for teens. Intensive workshops for emerging and established poets. The Black woman poet on my right is named Mahogany Brown, and she's now poet in resident at Lincoln Center. So I'm very, one of the things that I'm very proud about Poets House is this ability to not only just be able to have a poetry library that's accessible to the public, but also being a poetry incubator, encouraging younger writers to find their voice and to encourage them to use that voice. Mahogany is of course a large example of that, but all of these poets, I think, go through this program and emerge, with a better sense of who they are and what they want to do as poets. I haven't taught in that program, but I've also, but I've had one-on-one meetings with those writers over the past 4 or 5 years, and it's been an incredible, enriching experience for me, and hopefully for them as well. These are the workshops for adults and seniors. And each year we have the Poets House, at least until the pandemic, we have the annual Poets House Showcase. Showcase is really a remarkable event where every book that we can get our hands on, published in the calendar year, is showcased at Poets House. And we do readings in the park. It's a very powerful program here, and I just and you can see by the number of people in the audience how popular this event is or has been. This is another great poet, Natasha Nevada Diggs, reading. And one of the most premier events that we do is our Poet Walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. It's quite, for people who haven't done it, I hope, if you haven't done it, when we bring it back, I hope you will, because it's an amazing afternoon or evening. Walking across the bridge, at certain points, during the walk, we have invited poets to read New York poets, New York-based poems, as we cross the bridge. And at the, this is Kevin Young at one of the stops along the way. Kevin Young, who is now who was on our board and is also now the director of the Smithsonian Museum for African American Culture in DC. This was one of the great poets of one of the great American poets named Galway Cornell. And Galway was considered himself a disciple and someone in the lineage of Walt Whitman. So at the end of the walk, for a long time, the event would be that we'd get to the end of the walk, we'd get to the Brooklyn Ferry terminus, and there we'd meet Galway, who would read the Walt Whitman's poem "Crossing Brooklyn Ferry." He's of course gone now, but he's well missed. But it was quite an amazing moment to watch him and hear him take that poem back into the air. Here he is again. This is some readings in the park. The The most recent program has been the Poetry Path, collaboration with Battery Park City, featuring 50 poets ranging from ancient Greece all the way to local school children. And this map is the path of the Poetry Path, in which you can see the poets that we've chosen to highlight the walk. Am I going too fast? Not hearing it.
I think you're good.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. I won't want to rush this. So, thank you. This is one of the poets on our Poets Path. You will find biographies together, recordings of their reading all of the full poem. This is a poem by Mark Doty on the path. And as I said before, prior to the pandemic, we had more than 80,000 people, visit Poets House. And as you can see, the readings are very popular, have been very popular. You can see they're standing room only. This happens quite frequently for the readings at Poets House. And again, you can see there's the variety of people in that audience speaks volumes to the programming that Poets House brings to this community. Millions more are served by our national programs, including Poetry in the Branches, poetry collaborations that make public libraries centers for the discovery of poetry, Voices of the Muslim World, that was in Los Angeles, Jacksonville, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., Detroit, and Queens. The language of conservation, using poetry in zoos across the country to engage visitors in the issues of conservation. This is from another program called Fieldwork, exploring the relationship between poetry and science through collaborations between natural history museums and public libraries. This is a poem by the wonderful poet, African-American poet Audre Lorde. When the pandemic hit Poets House, it hit it hard. In March 2020, we closed the doors to the public and the staff began to work remotely, as many places did. We developed digital versions of programs that we were used to present in person. That was our response to it, including twice weekly readings from poets from all over the world. Discussions, lectures, and online workshops. And the free, enormously popular 10 by 10 by 10 writing workshop series. It's the idea of 10 by 10 by 10 is 10 days, 10 minutes, 10 poems. Thousands of people from around the world participated. And we were able to keep the staff on until November, when lack of funds forced us to cease operations temporarily. And then, of course, we hit, besides the pandemic, we actually had problems with with the building itself. As you can see, last August we were hit by a major flood. Here's some of the damage. As we work to rebuild, we're going to launch a listening campaign to gather the intelligence of our stakeholders in their structuring of the organization. We've put up a construction blog to keep the community informed of the progress of the repairs to the building. And we've launched a hard hat reading series, inviting poets to come either to Poets House to read, during the construction, or to set up a reading remotely. So far, we've had Bob Holman, Monica Young, Tracy K. Smith, and myself, among other poets. We have a whole list of writers, of poets coming up. This is Monica. And we're aiming to reopen sometime in the fall. We hope that we will be able to, to continue the mission the Poets House started almost, 25 years ago?
We were founded in 86. 96.
Right,
2006.
right.
1630, 35 years.
Right, as I said many times, I write, I don't count. So, but yeah, to bring back the mission that we've been doing for 35 years, in this, in various locations, but basically the last 12 years here, in Dairy Park City. It seems to be a perfect spot for Poets House, and I'm hoping we will be able to, continue to serve not only the poetry community, but also the Battery Park City community as well. So that's it. How do I end the slideshow?
You can hit stop sharing, or I can revoke your presenter privileges.
You can do that. Why don't we do that? That's the easiest thing to do. Why don't we do that?
Well, thank you, Cornelius. That was a great presentation. You sound like a perfect leader for that organization. I love your enthusiasm, and the programming looks great. And obviously, we wish you lots of luck on the rebuild. That's a shame, but
yeah, well, it is. But again, it's something that we are going to come back, and we are coming back, and it seems to be we're on track for that. That's very, very good. Are there any questions you'd like to ask us?
That's what I'm going to see if any committee members, any questions or comments? I don't see any.
Tammy's got a hand up.
Okay.
Sorry, Tammy, I didn't see that. Go for it.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So thank you very much for coming. I wondered what changes you're anticipating to make in the renovation of the first floor since the flood. Because the first floor had a community space on it. It had, obviously most of the works were upstairs, but what are you looking to do on the ground floor that's different than what you had before?
Well, I have to tell you that we're not ready to talk about that yet. We're right now at the point we're just basically just trying to deal with the mold, deal with the with the elevator, deal with it's there's a lot of stuff. There's a big list we have to go through before we get to the point where we're going to start thinking about if we need to redesign the space and how we're going to do that. We're looking to hire a architectural firm. Bids will start to come very soon. There will be discussions among the board about how we should be using that space, You know, and that's also part of a larger question, a larger conversation we'll be having about Poets House altogether, right? Poets House are becoming bad, but should Poets House be using the same materials, for example, right? You know, should we be using wood floors, right? Right? If water damage did all that, do you really want to replace wood floors again, right? So it's going to be a long that kind of conversation. And I don't think we're at the point where we can actually point to exactly how we're going to be thinking about it, but we see it as an opportunity to start to imagine what can be done with the space, right? So it isn't. I couldn't tell you that everything's going to come back exactly the same, right? But because again, it'll be a matter of just how we're going to design it, what we learned from this disaster, and how we're going to implement what we've learned into going forward. And that's going to be an ongoing process for a while.
Okay.
Jane, you want to say anything? I hope I'm not speaking out of.
No, that's really perfect. Some of the materials have not stood up to use. We're going to want to replace those with materials that are easier to maintain and can take the traffic of 80,000 people a year. As Cornelius mentioned, we want to make sure that we do as much as we can to minimize fallout from any potential future floods, although we certainly hope there won't be any.
Right.
And then there are a couple of design issues that we'd like to improve upon, like the lobby has always been a little too cold. So our plans, as Cornelia said, are very much at the earliest stages. But that's the level at which we're thinking, is just how to improve what was there.
Right.
Rather than starting from scratch.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Francis Curtis is up next.
Hi, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. You have certainly enlightened me in an area that I have absolutely no background knowledge until like inaugurations, and you hear people like Amanda Gorman,
right? Of course,
of course, yeah. and situations like that, and it's like, oh, poetry, okay. But the other thing is my question is I live on what's considered the east side of the district, and I don't walk over to where you are located. So, to be honest, I didn't know that you were in existence. Now that I do know, I will take a walk over there and go visit and look at some of the programs that you have there. My other question would be, I noticed on your map of different poets, everything is concentrated on the west side. Do you have any east side poets? I know they're in the lower east side, but come on, can we get somebody from the east side here?
We would love that. And so that map was a map of the Poetry Path, which we worked with Battery Park City Authority to install here in Rockefeller Park. During the course of the upcoming year, even while we're rebuilding the space, we would love to have conversations about expanding the path and bringing it to the east side. That would be absolutely terrific. So if you have any questions,
not me. I told you I have zero contacts, knowledge, or anything in that area, but it would be wonderful to explore that and see. I'm sure Black Gotham might be a good resource for you to reach out to see if they could help with that, because they do a lot of historical work in the district. So you might want to reach out to them.
Terrific. Welcome. Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And Who was that? If you want to make the community board aware of special programs that you're offering, you should do that. We will help publicize them. We do
Oh,
that for
terrific.
other.
I am making a note.
Okay, that would be great.
Meanwhile, on our website, so two things. On our website is the construction blog that Cornelius mentioned. So if you're curious about how we're coming along in the process of our repairs, you can check that out. And we send notices of upcoming hard hat readings and new additions to the construction blog, to our email list. So if anyone would like to be included to receive those updates and to stay informed about our progress and when we might reopen, by all means, just let me know. I'd be so happy to add you to the email list.
Thank you. Thank you.
And anything when we've got some solid stuff that we want to share, we'll send it along to the community board.
Okay, let's hear from David Sheldon next. David, unmute.
There we go. I'm very sorry to have to ask this, but what was the source of the flooding?
It was a supply line on the 4th floor, a plumbing supply line on the 4th floor above us in one of the apartments. It was a weekend in August when most people were away for the weekend. And during the weekend, they started announcing that a hurricane would be arriving. So I think many of the other people who live in the building stayed where I was on Sunday rather than coming back on Monday. So the water flowed all night and into the next day before it was discovered, just because the apartments were all empty.
Ouch.
Yes, it was a very unfortunate set of circumstances that so many apartments were empty, that it was a weekend and we were not here, that the building management didn't discover it sooner. Luckily, I mean, I don't know whether the fact that it was a supply line was a good thing or a bad thing. The good thing about it being a supply line is that it was clean water. The bad thing is that it was endless. It just kept flowing.
Well, I guess all our resiliency efforts won't necessarily solve all the problems.
That's right. That's right.
I was wondering what the flood was from. Wait a minute. I wasn't sure. No, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, man. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? I do not. Do you have anyone else, Diana?
No, I do not.
All right. So this was wonderful. Thank you again, and send Cornelius our best. Thank you both for being with us. Good luck, and stay in touch. If we could be of any assistance, we'd love to help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for your hospitality. I will share your farewells with Cornelius. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So Diana, are we ready for item 3? No sign of item 1, I take it.
Not yet. We are ready for item 3.
Okay, so committee, we're going to move on to item 3, which is discussion with the Economic Development Corporation regarding some of their waterfront assets, particularly along the east side. They did mention some of these projects at different meetings and forums, but I thought it would be helpful to hear the status of some particular items of interest. And with us from EDC is a familiar face, Gigi Lee. Gigi is now a vice president over at EDC. Congratulations on your new position, Gigi.
Hello, thank you. Hi, everyone. I know that, Paul, you had sent over some questions. So we triaged here at EDC. So Orion will be answering a lot of the questions you have around the tin building. And then I believe Elijah's also on, and he will answer questions around Fidei Seaport plan. And then I will take the one question you have around Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade. So I haven't been having a very good technology day today, but I do have 2 slides, which I'm going to attempt to share. Let's see if this works. There we go. Can you guys see that?
It. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So, so these are the same slides that we shared last at the other meeting, but I'll just go through it very quickly because you had wanted, I think, to spend a little bit more time on when things are starting and sort of be a little bit more specific about what some of the additions would be. So specifically for Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade, you'll see that the designing for the repair for the bulkhead construction is anticipated to start at the end of 2022. I think last week we just had some divers go and kind of do an inspection and see how everything was there, which we had emailed the community
Gigi,
board.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Could you make your slideshow full screen?
Oh, yes. Slide, hold on. There we go.
Thank you.
There you go. And a lot of what we're doing here is construction around curbs, bike lanes, overhead lighting, which we've actually already started. It was slightly delayed because of some supply chain issues, but we anticipate all that to be done in May of 2022. And we also got some feedback from residents that there were parts of the underpass that were not very well lit. And so there should be some light towers out there now so that there is some better lighting. And then, of course, the Get Down, the very famous Get Down, the RFP has already been issued. And so we anticipate construction to start summer of 2022. So underneath, you'll see some of where all the funding has come from to pay for all of these. And really, the whole point is that we want to make sure that all of this whole stretch, which I'll show you the map, will provide sea level rise protection, right? And that it'll include what we call kind of topping amenities like pavers, consistent pavers, railings. And I think we've also taken into account some of the requests coming from the community in regards to game tables, planters and plants, as well as seating and exercise equipment. So I think those will try to and are really focusing on consistency around this whole stretch. And so you can see from this map that the sort of gray area, which is kind of hard to see, but if you can see my cursor, this gray area here, that whole thing is the BMCR footprint. And then you'll see the little sections that we're sort of trying to coordinate all together. With, and you'll see I put on there sort of the highlighted work in each area, as well as the completion, the construction start dates. So that was you had just that one question on BBE. Did you have any questions before I passed it over to my other team members at EDC?
So just to be clear, those green spaces depicted in the Peck Slip and Brooklyn Bridge South lowest, most southern end, none of that is going to be proceeding in light of other actions that you're taking. Is that correct?
I think that is this sort of
Yes.
mossy color here. Right, so that has been removed from scoping. So that's not part of, that's not going to be part of it.
Okay.
I think that's part of, Elijah, correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to be part of Seaport Coastal Resiliency, right? It's going to have to be designed.
Yes, that's right. We'll be moving those pieces of the scope into the Seaport Coastal Resilience project so that all of that is designed together, and it's not something that gets done that then needs to be replaced or ripped out in the future.
Okay, great. And just one other thing that I would ask is, like you said, you're doing the RFP for the Get Down. Are you going to come to the community board for review and comments on how the details of how that's going to work?
You mean once there is an actual design?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're committed to coming back quarterly or with any milestone updates. So yes, you'll be seeing us.
Right, preferably before you make final decisions on, exactly how it's going to work. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on the Esplanade and this area that we've been discussing? Or are we ready to keep going? Okay.
I have a question, Joe Lerner.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
So the Peck Slip Brooklyn Bridge is not going to be done. What about the bike lanes in that area?
Joe, that's a great question. I was just about
Thank
to
you.
highlight for clarity that we are, so the tin building frontage has the completed bike lane along South Street. And then there's what, the community board and I have kind of termed as the gap area. And then north of that is the BBE. And so we are planning on finishing the bike lane north of the gap area, along with what Gigi said, towards May 2022. And in preparation, I've already we've paved a 10-foot wide bike lane through the gap area. So there'll be continuous continuity going, from, the Esplanade south of Pier 17 and north. So there will be a bike lane completed by May 2022.
The gap area is the
new market frontage area.
Right.
Yeah.
So to make it clear to me, the bike walk lanes, etc., are almost finished, and they'll be open when they're finished in totality. When will these areas be opened?
May 2022 is the current set date with the
the
supply
bike
chain.
areas?
Yes.
Yes.
So everything is closed now, or you're not doing it, but it will be completed in sometime in 2022. Is that correct?
There's the bike lane and pedestrians share a portion of the path south of Brooklyn Bridge. And by May 2022, so that's Q2 of this year, it will be completed.
Do we have a copy of what it'll look like when it's finished?
Can you rephrase your question? I mean, it's going to
Yeah,
be
well,
consistent with the Esplanade South that's completed
I'll answer
with
your
DOT
question.
standards.
How wide would the lanes be for bikes, for pedestrians, etc.? And what about signage?
So
Those
I
will,
think, sorry, so I think what Orion had started to say before is that we're trying to be consistent with kind of the entire bike path, right? So I think it's going to be consistent with just south of it, what that bike lane looks like now. That sort of is your best guide for what we're aiming for this new bike path for it to be continuous and in that sort of same width.
I walk that portion of the Esplanade 5 times a week. So I don't know I always walk down that part of the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade. I don't know what part is completed now. I don't know how wide these lanes will be. Can you tell me how wide the lanes will be?
4 feet wide.
For what? For people and bikes or individual?
No. The new bike lane, which will be running along South Street, will be separated from the pedestrian pathway and will feature 2 lanes, which each 4 feet wide.
Okay, thank you. And thank you.
All right. And just one clarification. So the area in front of the new market building you mentioned, you can't. So where are the bikes going to go when they're in that area?
So I've paved a 10-foot strip through that gap area, and so the finished bike lanes from the north will connect right to that beautifully paved strip, and then connect down on the tin building new area. So it will be.
Bikers can't continue. Okay. Let me.
So the bikers can continue. Yes.
Can. Okay.
Can, yes.
Let me go to 2 more speakers, and then we'll try to move this along. Tammy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Hi, Gigi. Congrats on
Hi, Tammy.
Can you give a little bit more explanation on what you're calling, I guess, the step down area in terms of it? And can you take a look at the funding and explain a little bit in greater detail? We saw from OMB that parts of this were funded already, which were part of city funding, but I assume that's 5 million or either an additional city capital or the initial city capital that was listed. And then conversations with Howard Hughes Corporation that they were spending money as part of the public benefits for the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade project, but I don't see their part included in here.
No, so I believe that the 8.8 million was going for a different pot. I think that's going for the seaport, the seaport section. Is that right, Orion? Or
yes,
Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
That's different. It's a different pot.
To EDC for Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project.
Right. Different.
We need to kind of understand that because the public benefits, I believe, said it was for the BBE project. It was not for LMCR as a role. So I'd love to really get some definitive emailed replies. Because it
if I remember correctly, the 8.8 million was part of the discussion around the 250 water. Orion, is that correct?
Yeah, it was at the lease extension, and
yes, the lease extension.
Tammy, yes, it's when we originally presented to the community board during the community board review at the meeting, the regular meeting, the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project hadn't spawned or come out of the LMCR studies yet, and so the idea was for Howard Hughes to actually do the work to the gap area to match the BBE project and the, the fixtures and amenities to the north. And so as the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project came to life, it didn't make sense to do the full scope of the BBE project and then rip it out within 5-7 years and raise the Esplanade 5 feet. So instead of losing out on this deal, we've restructured it so that Howard Hughes will, like, there's a trigger once EDC executes a CM contract for the Seaport Coastal Resiliency that 8.8 must be paid in full, or they pay equal annual payments over 3 years, or whichever comes earlier. So that's the answer to the question.
So yeah, that's new information for us. I'm a little disappointed that the community was asked to vote on something with public benefits, and I'd love to see a copy of what that final agreement was and is, so we can understand where it was and how it's outlined in particular. What role, if Howard Hughes is playing in that and not this, what role do they have in the design process of this, and whether or not Paul was gracious and asked if you'd come to the community board once designs were done. I'm going to back it up and say we'd love to understand the process, that the community engagement thus far and the needs and asks and requests are being utilized by whoever wins the RFP in the process.
So I can definitely bring that back to the team. The $8.8 million from Howard Hughes is given to EDC. So there's no, like, they don't have a say in how that money is going to get spent. It is under, like, in the coffers of EDC. And so there will be, and I think Elijah will speak to it in a little bit, there will be an engagement process with that part of with that project. So does that answer your question?
Not entirely. What role in the engagement part of the planning will Howard Hughes have as this runs through some of their land space?
Look, they're a stakeholder in the area. So if they, choose to be, and we have public meetings and they want to share sort of what they want, they're a stakeholder, just like anyone else. But it's not a situation where it's like, this was our $8.8 million, so we want A, B, and C, and we're going to say A, B, and C, right? They're a stakeholder, and just like CB1 is a stakeholder and residents are a stakeholder, but we're going to do a community engagement process that's going to be public, and you'll know if they ask for something, you'll know what they are asking for, and if you disagree, which of course never happens, CB1 never disagrees, but then we'll have we'll talk it out and figure out what the priorities are.
As long as there's a public process, it's just really a point to ensure that there is a public process and the community does have an opportunity to have the same input levels. It's not, I wouldn't want to decline them. It's important for them as it is for the community, for everybody to have a voice. They are part of our community, but it is about me asking for reassurance through transparency and engagement that there will be a seat at the table for the public.
Yes, I hear you. There will be a seat at the table for the public.
And if I could add, that this get down in the beach isn't even adjacent to any of Howard Hughes's, like, premises or joint maintenance area. So they will have little say in the process, but just as we value all stakeholders' opinions, but this has not been part of the discussions with them at all. I can tell you that.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think David Sheldon was next.
There we go. Quick question, and I think many people know what it's going to be about. I'm happy to hear that this stretch is going to be made in coordination with the FIDI Seaport Coastal Resiliency. I am happy to hear that you don't want to build bulkheads that you'll have to tear up in 5 years. What I was told during their presentation of FIDI Seaport Coastal Resiliency was that in fact, maritime use of the waterfront would be a consideration throughout the waterfront, even if it's not used. The assets will be built into the structures to provide that option in the future.
Mhm.
Is there any thinking along those lines here within the scope of this project?
By scope of the project, do you mean BBE or just the entire stretch?
The Esplanade.
I don't believe there is any maritime consideration right with the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade project. No.
Well, build, why would without doing so? I guess that I'll make that a rhetorical question. Thank you.
Elijah, do you comment on
Sure,
that?
I just wanted to clarify, do you mean for the design of what we build that it would have the option of having tie-ups for boats or?
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we can look at that within the design process, and we maybe it's a good transition to the next slides, but we you know, to Tammy's point and to your point, we haven't started that yet. We haven't even brought on a design team, but we're gonna you know, we definitely hear the community feedback loud and clear about getting to the water as much as possible. You know, Tammy, your point about being able to touch the water, the feedback about maximizing the maritime opportunities whenever possible. So all of those things, you know, we completely hear.
Yeah, 'cause unfortunately, when we
into
think of
paper.
access to the water, we always think of it in terms of coming from the land. I think we also need to speak in terms of access to the land coming from the water. Thank you.
Yeah,
This is
there are
encouraging.
actually
Keep it
just
up.
some, yeah, there are just some real considerations too that we'll go through in our planning and permitting process. But you know, we have to make sure there aren't any kind of vessel conflicts or security concerns, or that the elevations work for the angles at which a gangway would attach. You know, there are things to actually really look at and study to
Yes.
know, but we definitely hear you guys with the priorities.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Yes, and there are people that are very well versed in this stuff. Not me, but there are people.
More than me too.
Let's hear from a few others. Alice, you're next.
Oh, thanks, Paul, and hi, everybody. Thanks very much for all of this. I have a lot of questions, but I guess never fully understood. For example, in the budget that's up here, the project funding, has any of this been spent yet? Of the money that we're looking at, the original project funding, the $30 million. Original project funding for the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade, we've got $30 million. Where are we at with that money?
I cannot answer that question right now. I'm kind of filling in for Catherine, but I'm happy to follow up and get you that breakdown.
Well, okay, that would be helpful, but I'm just curious, has that money any of it been spent? Like, how much of the work has been done? There's a lot of work that's been done on the Esplanade. So I've always been curious as to how much of this is done, how much is being pulled up and simply removed that's already been done. Is there any way you could maybe identify that at some point? Maybe not tonight, with plans that show us. It would be really helpful if one of these meetings you would be able, and maybe it's hard to do this, but it would be helpful for all of us to see the existing condition plans and, you know, architectural plans again, landscape plans, and then what some of the proposed plans are, or maybe this is a little bit premature, I don't know, but the sort of before and after would be helpful. And the staging of this, what's already there is something that's relatively new, if I understand, in some
Sure.
areas. So it's just very confusing where we're at in this project.
Got it. Okay, so you basically want sort of like a snapshot in time of each of the projects in terms of kind of money allocated, money spent, where we are,
Yeah.
and then just, you know, the charts that say how far along we are and sort of the anticipated date visually.
Right. And then at what point do we get to have the exchanges on the design itself? Is this one of them? I'm just,
No. So no, this was supposed to be just an update with very specific questions that Paul submitted in advance. But but depending on so I'll give you an example, and Elijah, please like chime in. For Seaport FIDI resiliency, we're still we applied for some additional money, and so when we know whether or not we get an additional 50 million, we'll be able to kind of start an engagement process knowing how much money we have, and then knowing sort of the requirements for each pot of money and kind of what they have to be spent on. We'll round out sort of a discussion on what's possible in terms of design and planning and actual infrastructure. So they're sort of all on different timelines with different pots of money and different requirements.
well, is the Esplanade design, when does that, you know, what's happening with that part, the one that you're talking about now?
So the RFP is being issued, right? So we're hoping to pick someone in short order because the construction is supposed to start in the summer.
Can you define in short order? I mean, is that something that we should be seeing and beginning to have exchanges about? Because it sounds like it's imminent.
If I could, if what I think is happening here is there are pieces of the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade design was at 100% completion. There are portions of it that are moving forward, like the greenway portions and the curb cuts and the railings and the get down. And then there's portions of it that are being we're designing as part of the Seaport Coastal Resilience Project, in which there will be a new community process to go through what the design of the amenities would be there. And so that project has yet to start with bringing on a design and engineering team, but we're going to be releasing an RFP for that. And we're also releasing an RFP. We're also starting the construction of the BBE portions that are still moving forward. So those pieces are advancing into construction. And then we're also kicking off a new community process to focus on the design of the Seaport Coastal Resilience Project.
Yeah, I think
so I imagine some of this design money is spent, for instance, but the implementation money isn't.
Yeah, I don't know how to get that translated where someone like myself could understand it. Maybe others here can, but for me, that sounds so dense and so difficult to understand in terms of all these processes. At some point along the way, pretty soon, if you could just map this out quite literally on a plan, you show the plan of the whole, which each phase is in, the dating of it, the pricing of it. That would be really helpful I think to the whole community. So anyway, I don't want to belabor this, but I appreciate the time. And I hope that there's a follow-up that can sort of clarify some of these questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Detta.
Thank you. Let me see if I can get my light. Okay, so thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. So the design standard that for a 4-foot bikeway, 4-foot bike lane each way, and an 8-foot bidirectional is a really, really old design standard from a couple decades ago, and it's really insufficient for the volume of bikers that are out there today, and it's going to just get worse as more people start to bike and more capacity is needed. And the greenway on the Hudson River is all different sizes. It's not just a uniform size throughout. So I'm wondering if there is any willingness to make the greenway on the east side wider when it's permitted, when there's space and it could be wider, instead of sticking to a design standard that really is too small and needs to be updated. That's my question.
Ryan, can you take that question?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's our capital department who's not represented here tonight, who, you know, we, like Elijah said, we were at 100% design for the bike lane and other kind of curb cuts and amenities. So I think let's not hang on to the numbers, and we'll just confirm in writing the exact dimensions of the bike lane, and you know, certainly open to you know, making it bigger where permissible. But I think you know, I have trust in our team and the design that was done recently to have accommodated you know, growth and the amount of bikers that are there. So let's just confirm the dimensions with you before we dig too deep into this.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Detta. Let's see. I see we do have Joanne Gorman up from the public who wants to speak. So could we unmute her? There you go. Okay, Joanne, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. But I see you just muted again.
Joanne, I'm sending you another unmute request. There we go.
I think I'm in. Okay. I just wanted to zero in a little bit more on this number 2 Brooklyn Bridge shoreline and what is said there, a get down. Are we talking about actual access down to the beach, or the step down like is right below Pier 15? There's a step down. Are we talking to an actual get down? And the reason I want to know is because in 2013, $7 million in funds were allocated by then Borough President Stringer, City Council Chair Quinn, and City Council Member Margaret Chin. And an issue cropped up in 2017 where EDC was going to redirect the funds away from that particular proposal. And now I see get down, and I really want to clarify, what is the get down and where is that 7 million at this point? Because it was meant to have actual access to the beach, and we were guaranteed that there'd be a gateway for us to get at it after the borough president and council member Chin spoke to EDC in 2017.
Yes, so this is actual physical access to the beach. There will be an actual gate there. I can't speak to the money from Comptroller Stringer, but yes. So if you look at this $5 million from Borough President, that would be Gail Brewer and Councilmember Margaret Chin. So they felt very, very strongly about having this access. And so that is the money that they put in through their offices.
Okay. I thought it was 7 million.
I think it's somewhere between 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right, so that's good that it's really going to be access for us to the beach itself. Thank you.
Yes, they felt very strongly about that.
Yes, the community did too.
Yes. So, Paul, sorry to interrupt, but we had prepared to answer the questions you had sent in advance. So should we go through those first before we take any more questions?
Sure. And then we're going to hear a little more about Seaport Coastal Resiliency, right?
Yeah, I think some of the questions will get answered once Orion and Elijah, are able to give their presentations.
Okay, so do you want to read the questions and your answers?
Sure.
Well, why doesn't Elijah go? Because a lot of the New Market buildings are tied, the questions and answers are tied to Elijah's stuff. So
okay,
I think that would,
okay,
if that's okay.
Let's try that. Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. And I wanted to introduce Rachel Aronson, who's going to be sharing some slides about the Seaport Coastal Resilience Project, who works with us on Lower Manhattan Coastal Resilience in the Neighborhood Strategies Group at the Economic Development Corporation.
Oh, great. Thanks, Elijah. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So taking a step back and wanting to just give some general context on Seaport Coastal Resilience before diving into the specific questions that you have, wanting to just ground in why the Seaport and what this project is. So as many of you are all familiar with the Financial District and Seaport Master Planning process, this was a project that was identified during that as a near-term investment that we could make now to address really critical risk in this area. The Seaport District is the lowest lying part of the shoreline within the study area, which makes it particularly vulnerable to climate change and sea level rise. This is an area that without action will begin to see frequent flooding by the 2040s. Flooding will be monthly by the 2050s and daily flooding by the 2080s. In addition to sea level rise, we also know that there are coastal storm impacts that we want to protect against. And this area is also particularly vulnerable to that because the shoreline is actually elevated a little bit higher than the upland neighborhood. So in an event of a storm or water overtopping, creates what's called a bathtub effect where the water can't drain out. So really important to address these risks and realizing that through the planning process that we would be able to take action within a shorter time frame. So what is Seaport Coastal Resilience, or as we all love our acronyms here, SPCR? So this is a project to address those risks and primarily addressing sea level rise risk through raising the waterfront 3 to 5 feet. And this will have the effects of protecting against sea level rise, but also by doing that, we'll also protect against the current day 50-year storm. So really sort of addressing both that sea level rise and coastal storm risks. While we're doing this work, and as you all know, this opens up the opportunity for additional enhancements, particularly thinking about the pedestrian experience along that Esplanade. And so part of this project and a lot of what we've done here, as you all know, and we came to you all for support for our grant application to FEMA, in the process of scoping the project for the application, identifying broad buckets that we could also include in this project. So in addition to the coastal storm and sea level rise risk to address, also thinking about Esplanade improvements, ecological enhancements, and green and gray infrastructure for stormwater management. I will emphasize that this was a scoping process that was done really for the sake of being able to submit this application and making it as competitive as possible and identifying sort of the broad areas of work that we'd want to see, but the design hasn't started because we just don't know how much money we'll have yet for this final project. Which I think leads into the specific questions you all had and thinking about next steps and engagement here. So just this top bucket here, talking through the funding. So we have a confirmed total 170 million in city capital. 110 million was announced at the end of last year, and we've identified an additional 60 million for a total of 170 million in confirmed capital. We submitted an application to FEMA for 50 million. So if we got that, the total project budget will go up to 220 million. And as you mentioned, the 8.8 million from the Howard Hughes Corporation, again, specifically going towards waterfront Esplanade and public amenities. For next steps, and particularly around engagement, we'll begin procurement of the design team in summer 2022, which I guess is now this summer, once we have notice on FEMA funding and we know what the total project budget is. So once we hear back about that, to your question about sort of the scoping process, we are happy to come back and coordinate with the community on scope. And then just like all the other capital projects that we advance as a part of LMCR, once that project continues to move through that process, continuing to coordinate really closely with you all and really relying on the community board for that input and continuing to do our quarterly updates. And so we see this as being another exciting project to add to the LMCR portfolio, coordinating really closely with you all and sort of that structures that we've built out and excited to enter that next phase of design work with you all. That's all I have. If there are specific questions there, hopefully that answered the questions that you all sent in advance.
Okay, is anyone else from the team addressing this, or is it our turn to ask you any questions now?
Nope, this was the Seaport Coastal Resiliency portion.
Okay. So when do you anticipate this community engagement beginning?
So we'll have a preliminary designation from FEMA over the summer. So that's the point at which we will know how much money we have, and so we can start to identify the scope and bring on a design team. So until then, we're a little bit in a holding pattern.
Okay, but you do intend to work with the community board on
Sorry, can you say that again?
the community board will play a key role in the community engagement portion of the review. Okay. All right. Anyone have any further questions on this part of the project?
You know, Paul, I would. What kind of coordination are you doing about the public open spaces that are available on the east side, considering all the parks on ESCR are torn up and Wagner Park for Battery Park City and parts of the Battery will be torn up? What kind of coordination are we looking at to ensure the maximum amount of space is still available for public usage while we're doing all these?
So I can take a stab at that. So what we did with parks, last year, was we looked at all of the available. I'm sorry, I should say that this was in my role with the former council member and not with EDC. So I just want to put that on the record. That we did work with parks planning to look at all available open spaces. There were investments made on upgrading some of the open spaces, as well as thinking through school playground upgrades, even NYCHA open spaces, to make sure that as much as possible, understanding that there would be a lot of open space that would kind of be taken offline with all these resiliency projects, that there was an overarching, like kind of bird's eye view of making sure there was increased accessibility in other open spaces as possible. So, that's something we can reach out to parks and take another look at. I think the other thing that the community asked for, particularly on the Lower East Side, which we were able to announce not too long ago, is the ferry to Governor's Island, understanding that that's sort of also a nearby open space, and that there's easier and more frequent access to Governor's Island.
So, while I appreciate that, that's not necessarily going to alleviate the need for what is, public open space in CB1 specifically for what I'm looking for. I have concerns because Parks does not have any jurisdiction over the public open spaces in Battery Park City. That is completely done with that. So, and I know this was done in your former job, but I'm looking for an update that EDC should be involved with, because it's scheduling of all the other things that are happening, and to look at an overall global calendar to understand what's open, what's closed, and when, because we're not getting flooded in 6 months. And if the process can be dovetailed so it isn't all at the same time, that would certainly provide a better quality of life for the people who live and work here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you work here and you're looking to go and have a spot to go sit and have a lunch, you're not getting on the ferry to go to Governor's Island for lunch hour. So
yeah, we can, I can coordinate with BPCA and get you a better picture of, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, we're looking for follow-up after this meeting from the questions that obviously Paul had sent, was a real comprehensive look at the timing of all the projects and budgeting on the projects and what the public engagement for all the projects is looking like. All right, and I appreciate this. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome
we
to the
can't
party from the other side.
underestimate the need for open space, particularly, as Tammy said, in CB1, and particularly on the east side of CB1, which basically has next to nothing as far as active recreation space, especially for kids who are perhaps beyond the age of imagination playground and something like that if they want to ride a bike or do things like that. So let me segue. Might have a comment or two about a project that CB1 is championing, and that's Rosa Chang.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm actually just going to piggyback on what Tammy and Paul were just saying, which is that we, only 20% of the median of active recreation space in our immediate area. And it's a little frightening because what we are talking about from the last presentation that EDC made was that 5.6 miles of our perimeter under construction, and it's going to be under construction. We're told that the absolute minimum would be 2 years, but if we're like reasonable and on about it, then the schedule creep only happens in one direction, so that 2 years might turn into 3 or 4, and the 5-year projects turn into maybe 6 or 7 or 8. And the I'm not even going to touch the FIDI Seaport Resiliency Plan, which was 15 to 20. So I'm guessing that's going to be like more in the 30-year mark, which is a little horrifying. But anyways, so if we take all of that into consideration, the fact that East Side Coastal already started at 2021, and that we have the Brooklyn Bridge Montgomery Coastal Resiliency Project starting in 2022, which is this year, this summer, I think, according to the last meeting, and that the Battery Coastal Resiliency starts in 2023. The Battery Park, as Tammy mentioned, Wagner Park already, 2022. And then, of course, the Army Corps was just here yesterday to talk about their work that's going to be happening. So as you probably know, especially UGG, all of our active recreation space, all of our parkland is essentially along the entire perimeter. And all of that area is going to be closed for years. And we have hundreds of thousands of people living here. That's not even talking about the people who may, come in and need to go for lunch. So we have what I consider literally space crisis hands in our neighborhood. And then I'm just going to briefly touch on the jail project, which is right beside two little parks, two parks, which are the rare parks that are actually inland. And they're going to be screwed too because of the jail project. So I think we all realize from the pandemic that, access to open space is actually essential for sanity and health, both mental and physical. And we're sort of going to be really out of luck on that. And so we need to know that you guys actually in place, so that crazy down here, any crazier than we already are with this, 2 years into the pandemic. So I would request strongly that you do get back with a plan for real. Talking about NYCHA, from speaking with Aisa Torres, that NYCHA property is actually private property. And if you do not live at NYCHA, or you are not a guest of a person living at, then you have no business being on the land. So their parks are not our parks. They are NYCHA's parks, and we will not be welcome there unless you happen to know, personally know somebody there who asks you to come on their property. Just like I'm sure Paul will probably say, I'm going to take a stab here at this, that Southbridge open areas are not open for everyone who belong to the residents of Southbridge. That they would probably not welcome, thousands of people coming from all over the community, going into, for the little bit of green space that they have. So we need a real plan. I think one of those real plans would be Brooklyn Bridge Manhattan, which is a park that we're proposing underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. And all of this conversation just, underlines to me how important it is that we start working on alternatives, open spaces for our neighborhoods, like immediately, like yesterday, because these projects have already started, and more slated to start this summer, and then more slated to start next year. And it's a little scary that we haven't put, it sounds like, much thought into what are we going to do while all of this land is under construction that we rely on every single day. There, sorry, that sounded a little bit like a rant.
I got it.
That was good. And, you know, I would just add that the Brooklyn Bridge Banks, as it's also called, it was an area that served this community and was open as an open space for over a decade until the Parks Department closed it for what we were told would be a 3-year renovation. And they never returned it to this community, a community that has virtually no active recreation space. So this is immediately adjacent to the Seaport Coastal Resiliency footprint. It would be a perfect spot to spend some of that money that you have for additional public amenities, et cetera, that I see possibly the Howard Hughes money or whatever funds you could come up with for that, or we could just work together to get the city to prioritize that. And Rose has done a great job of introducing this project to many of the neighbors in the area, and it's gotten nothing but support from elected officials, from other city agencies. So we just have to get it done and reopen it to the public. And I would urge you would win over a lot of people if you would work with us cooperatively on that one.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I've been on Rosa's tour, and she's very, very compelling, and I agree. Like you said, it's not an EDC asset, but to the extent that we can, you know, work with parks and sort of elevate the issue, you know, I'm happy to do that.
And DOT.
Yes.
Yes,
DOT,
please work with
parks.
DOT. Please work with DOT, and because it is their land,
We'd
legally
like to
speaking.
turn it over to parks, but right now DOT is the impediment.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So if there's more questions on this, because I know Orion still had prepared answers for the new market building.
Okay.
Actually, I do
Anyone
have a
else
quick
have
question.
anything on Seaport Coastal Resiliency?
Yes,
before we-
this is Rosa. Hi, can you hear me? Sorry, I forgot to ask. Sorry, I went on my little rant and then I totally forgot to ask my question, which is I noticed that the little blue squiggle line in your site plan for, if you could bring that up, please. Yes, perfect. Thank you. I noticed that it goes sort of where that little street and the road is, and I'm wondering if there's any possibility to have that go where the Robert F. Wagner Senior Place is, which is just a little bit to the north of that parking lot, rather than where it is located now. And the reason why I ask that is because one idea that we're pursuing is that if the FDR were to be removed south of the Brooklyn Bridge, then there would be the possibility of removing that ramp and that little road, that access road, and combining that entire sort of triangle of land. And so I'm wondering if you could just move that line 1 block north, since it's still just a blue line on a map and not anything in the physical world.
So that's really helpful to hear. I think that, you know, in this world of design is being scoped and finalized, you know, as we move into the next phase, like that particular piece and the tie-in and tying into BMCR up there is all sort of part of this next phase of work. So that's helpful feedback and certainly something we can continue to take through.
Okay, thank you. And if that control box or whatever, the control room or whatever that needs to go with, I guess, the project, the Brooklyn Bridge Montgomery Coastal Resiliency Plan. Sorry, all the letters. It's so hard with all the letters. I don't know how you keep it all straight in your brain. So congrats to you for that one. If it could just go sort of on the northern corner, so that again, it leaves flexibility for the eventual park that would go there, then that would be amazing as well. We'd really appreciate that too.
Okay.
And I already told Jordan that, by the way. So, but thank you.
Okay, so moving on to New Market Building. Let me just introduce this very quickly. When I did send some notes over on that, I did point out to EDC and their team that this has been a project that this community board has been asking for at least since 2002, when we worked on a large scale for this community. That it is empty and there's no definitive plans for it. We would love to pursue that and get it moving. So I'll throw it over to you and you could let us know what the status is.
Sure. So Orion's going to cover this section.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Paul. You know, as Elijah alluded to in the Seaport Coastal Resiliency, there's still a lot of planning to do, and raising the Esplanade or the bulkhead 3 to 5 feet will certainly affect the future uses of the New Market Building. We we completed demolition in 2021, and very happy to get that down. I think you had a question about the piles. Similar to Pier 17, the platform will need to be completely rebuilt. We strategically left the platform in place so that it's easier to always do in-water work if something is existing, with the Army Corps and the various permitting agencies. So the use, I think it's on my priority list for this year, and excited with the new administration and all the groups to start exploring and brainstorming ideas. I've heard maritime activity. That's certainly I've seen plans and proposals and ideas for that and the community use. So we're excited to start really thinking through and engaging the community with this. It's just something that we still need. I think we need to get a little further ahead in the planning of Seaport Coastal Resiliency, but maybe we can bring in a partner to also aid any more funding gaps. So the long and short is that the planning is not going on behind your back, but it hasn't started yet. And I think the first time I ever stood in front of the CB1, I'm pretty sure we made like a promise that not even a license would be given out on the New Market Building without community boards input. And I didn't even let cat shelters go on there without them coming to you guys. So I hope I hope we're forming a good relationship, and we really want to see something happen to the New Market Building. It's just we want it to be well thought out and planned, as you do too. Let me see if I missed any of your questions. We're not working with the Army Corps right
So
now.
there's no section 106 being done on this?
Not currently, no. We did, like all systems were focused on safely getting it down last year. Then the resiliency project kind of popped up, and the New Market Building has always kind of been in their studies and analysis, whether it be funding or extending the shoreline. It's certainly an integral part, and it's unleased and unencumbered. So it's something that we need to really do all the analysis before we encumber it with any leaseholds or anything else.
So remind us what the timeline is for determining the future of this site.
So I think I want to get back to you on a better timeline once we have a lot of the Seaport Coastal Resiliency work coming up through the summer and designers. So I think we should put together a timeline together. I will tell you that a semi-permanent construction fence will be replaced there, and we'll be doing rotating public art displays on the fence. Already the path, that frontage area where the pedestrians and bikers are sharing a lane, has been completely repaved around the corner and everything. The lighting has been fixed just north of that. And so it's in a good spot once we get the public art up. And that's that will be the state until we can move forward with something.
Okay. Questions from anyone on New Market Building?
One other note is we're also installing security cameras, or Howard Hughes is installing. We're gonna give a license just for the ground area, not the platform. And so security cameras will be installed there and monitored as part of their their whole security system that they manage in the former streets and the uplands and Pier 17. So I think that covers your last question.
Okay, thank you.
There was also just today a last minute question about the Fulton Stall Market.
Right, and let me just back up very quickly. Fulton Stall Market is a fixture at this board. They provide fresh foods from local farmers, etc. And the issue there is what kind of space they're going to get. There was a promise made to the community in 2013 that I know Gigi's familiar with, for a 10,000 square foot public market to be installed here. They always envisioned that they would be the group to continue to do that. And but I understand that the largest space that's been offered to them is 3,500 square feet. So, and this community board has expressed some concerns about that and the fact that, again, another commitment that we've heard so much about that doesn't seem to be being carried out. And I know you may say that the Tin Building will have a market. Not everyone envisions that to serve the same population as the one served by Fulton Stalls. So anyway, could you tell us what the status is? Are you working with Fulton Stalls, and are you going to try to get them that space in the realm of 10,000 square feet that has been discussed? I know, I will also just point out that they've told us that they were actually offered a space that size in 2015, but that offer was quickly withdrawn by either EDC or Howard Hughes, I forget. Okay, that's it. You could answer and tell us the status. Thank you.
The status is pretty similar to when we came to the community board the first time and went over, this issue. I think I wasn't around in 2013, and I have a restrictive declaration that goes for Pier 17 and the Tin Building, and I have a lease with Howard Hughes, and it's tough to argue that the Tin Building isn't satisfying their 10,000 square foot market requirement with locally sourced foods through our lease extension process. We've even made them commit to accepting SNAP benefits as in addition, and something that I was happy to get through the finish line. But that being said, we're working with Fulton Stall Market to strongly reconsider the space. They certainly could negotiate and lease the remaining 6,500 square feet from Howard Hughes and take that whole Translux building that we're calling it. But they have 3,500 square feet of free space. It's going to be completely turnkey, and it's the corner of Little Water Street and Beekman, and we have the concession. I've told them they're more than welcome to have as much outdoor space during the seasonal hours. It will far exceed 10,000 square feet, and so that's really where we're at. Trying to, I think we can discuss more and have a special conversation on this, but there's not too much that EDC can do. I think the offer is considerate as it is.
Tammy, did you want to speak?
Sort of. I'm frustrated because it doesn't, 3,500 is not 10,000. I mean, it's just not. We had asked in the public benefits that they have the same lease extension that Howard Hughes was getting for 99 years. It didn't seem right to me that the public benefit that is the one that we had asked for and one that was guaranteed and was widely publicized was reduced by 65% and not given the same full benefit that Howard Hughes was for the lease extension. So there's not much that I'm going to say that's going to really be sort of satisfying. Yes, we enjoy what we have, but it's not what we were promised. So I'm not really sure where we go on this, because I do think that EDC has a responsibility to the public. And even if you weren't here, promises were made and they have not been delivered. So I appreciate that you weren't here back then, but the documentation is there. What happened behind closed doors is not something that the public was eligible to know, but could still be made right when we look forward and we look ahead. So I don't see this as a closed door and telling. I find it interesting. We sat when they, on the east side, on the west side, when they, dedicated the beautiful pier and the governor was there and he thought it was fantastic to have, sampling from New York State products there. And yet they tell me that that the organization that reps New York State products can't get a foothold anywhere in Lower Manhattan to be able to have, stall markets. So I'm confused as the complete disconnect that I have heard and seen between the city and state on things like that and the developers. And I look forward to an opportunity with this new administration to see if we can make some change in that respect.
Yes, it just seems that again and again, the wishes of the community come in a distant second to what Howard Hughes and they want for themselves and their tenants. And I'm not saying that what is going to be built there is not going to serve the community, but that's not what we're really asking for. Okay, Rosa, you have a comment on this?
Yes. So I apologize because it's probably been about a year since I've really looked at this, but I do remember from our conversations ages ago that what we discussed was that that basically the plan for Fulton Stall Market was a larger market that had a variety of different choices, options, products, whatever you want to call it. And so that was why there was a specific square footage need that was sort of tied to what they would provide. And that, percent of that doesn't provide them with enough space to actually implement that original plan. And so I guess the question is that 30% of the space, does it compromise the plan so much that it's not really viable? Right. And I understand that you guys are kicking in the money to actually build out the space and all of that. I think that there's a logistical concern here that we're not when we talk about square footage, right? Which is like, how is the space divvied up? What kind of food options do they have? Are there different needs and refrigeration and all of that stuff? When you talk about sort of amount of space so much, maybe they actually aren't able to deliver what they were, hoping to deliver in the neighborhood. And so they won't be able to be as viable a business, right? Because they don't offer a variety of products within that space. So I don't think it's just a square footage ask. I think it's an actual logistical ask.
Okay, bottom line is I think the community board would like to continue working on this, and we're not really satisfied with the answers that we're hearing tonight. So if you could bring that back, and perhaps we can continue discussing that as well, since this is really also within the footprint of the Seaport Resiliency area. Okay, let's see. I think that pretty much covers the items that I had asked to be covered. Are there any final comments anyone, either from EDC or the community board or the public, has to make on this? Okay, I don't see any. Oh,
Thanks,
Rosa.
Paul. I raised my hand again just to piggyback on what Detta was saying earlier about the bike lanes. I know that the Brooklyn Bridge bike lane that opened up, which, you know, thank you guys very much. We're super excited about that. But I know that it's very compromised in terms of width, but that was all that we could get because that was, you know, the conversion of a lane of traffic into bike lanes. So, but in this area where there may be more possibility to expand with what that people have, you know, some discomfort about, you know, biking in an area that is so narrow. So it would be great if you guys could, you know, before it's, you know, done in real life, while it's still in drawing form, you know, consider that and expand the width as much as possible. And I'm not even a biker. I just don't want to see bikers. Thank you.
Well, the mayor's a biker, so he's going to, I'm sure, be looking out for them. Okay, so with that, I guess I'll thank EDC and look forward to our continued chats on all of the above. Thank you all for coming and thank you for your participation.
Likewise, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Nice.
We'll send you a nice follow-up list of questions that came from tonight's meeting. Have no fears.
Oh, I would expect nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, let's move on to the last item. It looks pretty apparent that unfortunately the Coast Guard wasn't able to make it. And I think the final item I just wanted to go through very quickly was the issue of temporary artwork. We've discussed this already in this committee, and I think I have the consensus of what people are looking for. Just backing up, temporary artwork are pieces that are installed in local parks or public spaces. They have a date where they're going in and a date where they're going to be removed. And perhaps the most important thing to relay again that we heard is that Parks Department really does not take into account almost at all the feelings of the community on these projects. They show them to us. They're really informational presentations. So I think the committee has decided that, and I frankly agreed with it, and I think it was the consensus that we will send out information about these projects. Again, if we really get, you know, a lot of feedback on something, we could pursue it. We have not been getting much feedback on them. The two most this one is the one that we already actually saw in 2020, but it never went forward because of COVID, etc. But they want to put it in, and here's my latest idea on how to handle these, and I'm looking for your feedback. And that would be to, when I give a report to the full board, we'll continue to send it out to the committee, but so that additional people hear about these things, I can give a very quick report myself that would indicate where the piece is going, when it's going to be installed, when it's going to be removed, and obviously a depiction of what it is. And I guess I'll set the ground rules, you know, that the community board really doesn't have much input on whether these are going in or not. It's really an FYI. So that's my suggestion too, because Alice, who I think is no longer with us on this call, you know, had some questions, and I think when I explained to her that this is what I had in mind, she liked it. So does anyone have any feedback. Is that okay with the rest of the committee? Right, quiet.
Paul, hi, this is Richard, Paul. I'm just not sure exactly what, just explain what's different from what you're proposing from what we're doing now.
I'm going to also present very quickly to the full board the very basic information about what is going in at a park or a play space or whatever in Community Board 1. Again, with just a depiction of the piece of art, dates on when it's supposed to be installed and removed, and that's pretty much it. So it's just sharing the same information that we already share with the committee, with the full board. Okay, Andrew?
No, Paul, I think that's a fine idea. It's a way of just sharing these projects with everyone. The one thing I would caution is we don't want to open it up to a debate as to the quality of the artwork or art piece itself. I mean, that's not really, I think, what you're intending here, but need to make sure that it doesn't devolve into that.
Yes, I will do my best, and we can all do our best on that. And let's give, I guess, unless there are any other comments, we'll give this a shot and see if this works. I think it will. Okay. I guess that's it. Does anyone have any old or new business that they want to bring up? In that case, I thank you all. Good meeting. Thank you for joining in, and we will see you at the full board. Have a good evening. Thanks, Diana.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.